Everybody. Thank you for joining us today. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today with the Portland Film Festival via NBC. Thank you so much. We are going to be talking about voices of ability, stuck stereotypes. It's a subject matter that is near and dear to the hearts of everyone on the panel today. So we got a lot to cover, and hopefully we can keep this conversation and discussion going so that we can address the issues that need to be addressed out there in the industry, media, and in the minds and hearts of our fellow human beings. So today we're going to go through our list of panelists. So we have Ken Ross, Chloe Clark, we have Addison Witt, David Proud, and hopefully Jessica Clark will be joining us soon. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today.
No worries, James. Thank you. Good to see you.
Some of my yes, awesome. All right, so a lot of you guys are coming from the UK today, and it's late night over there, as far as I know. So thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
All right, I'm just going to go down the list and we will have everyone introduce themselves. We'll start with Ken.
Hi there. So I'm Ken Ross. I've produced a short film Innocence, My Feral Heart, Scarborough, Gallow Walkers, and I'm particularly interested in seeing better representation of people with Down syndrome in the film and TV industry.
Oh, great. Thank you so much, Ken. Awesome. All right, next we're going to introduce Chloe Clark. Hey, Chloe.
Hi, James. I'm Chloe. I'm here representing Equity, the union for creatives in the industry in the UK. I'm specifically representing the Deaf and Disabled Members Committee, and I work as an audio description consultant and actor, and run Elbow Room Theatre in Wales in the UK, making elbow room for deaf and disabled artists in the industry.
Oh, awesome, Chloe. Thank you so much. All right, David, your turn.
Hi, my name's David Proud. I'm an actor, writer, and director. And I recently directed a short film called Very Similitude, which stars Ruth Madeley. And it's all about a disabled actress who can't get work as an actress. So she's a consultant for a very snotty A-list celebrity who's tried to win an Oscar by playing disabled. So it covers the subject of crippling up, which is very dear to my heart. And I'm absolutely obsessed with all things inclusion and just trying to make the world a little bit more authentic, really.
Yes. Oh, thanks, David. Appreciate you, man. Addison, your turn, my friend.
Hi there. Hopefully, can you hear me?
Yeah, great.
Okay, great. They're working on our service in the area, so we're having some technical issues. But anyway, I'm Addison Witt. I've been a longtime talent manager and acting coach. I've also produced film, television, stage, and I now work largely in commercials. And so that's primarily what I do. In 2005, I started an organization called Beyond Diversity, The Future Is Now. And here in Hollywood, we really addressed at that time a lot of the inconsistencies. And one of my clients from Breaking Bad, RJ Mitty, who has cerebral palsy, was on an organization called, it was a diversity organization at the Screen Actors Guild. And so I've been involved in diversity of different kinds and levels for a lot of years here in Hollywood. So I'm glad to be on this panel and joining you today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Addison. It's so good to see you.
Thank you. Likewise.
Yes. We also have our ASL interpreter, Dana, joining us today. Thank you so much, kind sir. All right. So we're just going to jump into it. All right. So I have some questions I want to direct directly to a lot of you guys. If anybody else has something they want to add, please do jump in. We have a lot to cover. Obviously, we're all very passionate about creating room for those that have been marginalized and pushed aside. So Ken, I'll start with you. Oh man, Innocence. I watched the trailer and I was on the edge of my seat. I It's something I had never seen before in mainstream media and in the industry, TV film. Do you want to speak on what inspired you to do this film?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I've been a founding trustee of an organisation called Portsmouth Down Syndrome Association, which is the largest provider of free specialist educational support in the UK for children with Down syndrome. We're reaching incredible levels, and the majority of children we work with are in a mainstream setting. So one of the things which has been bothering me is too many views around Down syndrome rest on out of date, anecdotal at best, third hand knowledge. And lots of people mean really well, but actually, the way that people with Down syndrome get treated for the most part is in a very simplistic way, tends to be really patronising. If you and I were treated in that way, we'd literally be saying, what on earth's going on?
Absolutely.
I don't want to know what the weather's like every single time you speak to me, or come up and give you a hug, or whatever cliche is that's going on. So what I really wanted to do, and following on from My Feral Heart, the film Innocence looks at characters who have Down syndrome in morally ambiguous ways, really complex characters. There's nothing that's one-dimensional about the characters here, and I really wanted to see a part where lead actors with Down syndrome would do something that, as you said, has never been done before, could shock a lot of people, and surprise a lot of people. And for me, that was so important. And when I spoke to the actors who have been involved and some of the guys who were inspirational to the script being made, they were just unbelievably frustrated that they weren't getting the chance to really show who they could be in terms of just acting a different character. One of the other things when you get involved in promoting actors with Down syndrome is so many people think you're filming a fly on the wall documentary. They don't realise you're actually telling a story, and that this is made up, and actually here's an actor and he's playing a part, and no, it isn't his life story. So I was just really excited to do that. I was a bit nervous as well, but I was really excited to do that, and the guys pulled it off in a way which even went beyond my sort of biggest hopes for the film. So I was very, very pleased with how it came out.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah, it's pretty edgy, and I also was like when it first started, when I first watched the trailer, I was watching really intently and how are they going to pull this thing off. But I think it'll definitely sit in the minds of the viewers long after they've watched it. Just changing the way that we perceive others, especially the marginalized community. I think is how we need to like really get at this thing. Like the old concepts, like attack those, the old perceptions, attack those.
Oh yeah,
And I think
yeah.
the film does that really well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, the way that we all go through life, we've all got our own stories. And how boring is it if we don't get to tell our stories? If people just assume, well, I know everything about you. You just walked in the door. I can, I've made up my mind. I know who you are. And for a lot of people with Down syndrome and a lot of people with disabilities, other disabilities, it's that type of, just dismissal of of who they are, that someone's already put you into a box, and that's the box that you've just got to exist in. And it is really annoying. And I think a lot of people, I mean, it probably shouldn't be forgotten, a lot of people don't necessarily know any better because they may not have interacted with someone with a disability at all. So they're probably being well-meaning. They're not doing anything to be unfair or unkind in any way, but it's just they don't know any better. So one of the great things about film is that we can all showcase everyone's abilities. We can showcase everyone's positions in society and let society see, you know, whatever they thought would be the case, actually, there's maybe a lot more to it.
Yeah, yeah. There's always something to it, right? There's levels to this. There's definitely
Yeah.
levels to this. Oh, thank you so much, Ken. Chloe, I got a question for you, darling. You
Hmm.
are very active within the community, the disabled community, pushing for the rights of everyone involved, and you yourself have been very active creatively as well. Do you want to speak on how 1 second, how would you characterize the state of the industry as it relates to the visually impaired creatives, cast, and crew?
Whew, where to start? um, Good question. Well, actually, I was just noting down a couple of things that Ken said, and they are
Oh,
just
please.
they have so much resonance, you know, to answer this question and for everything else that we talk about regarding disability in the arts. And the first one was mean well, they mean well, and the second one was as Ken's brilliant point that, you know, the arts, whether we're talking about film or television or theatre, we're in a really unique position to be able to shape and form the attitudes that we have in society in general towards disability. And at the moment, and historically, and things are progressing gradually, very, very slowly, but they are progressing. But to be really honest and frank with you, you know, historically, the arts haven't been doing their job in the sense of authentic representation and really living up to this, you know, unique role that we have in terms of being able to really progress and shape people's attitudes. So Ken's absolutely right. You know, at the end of the day, people don't mean to be, you know, apathetic or misrepresentative of disabled people. It's just a literal question of ignorance. And I don't mean ignorance in the critical sense. I mean ignorance in the purest sense of the word. People just don't know any better, and they don't know what they don't know. If it isn't relevant to you, you're not going to know it, and that's not your fault. So in a way, it's those of us in the community, it's our responsibility to educate people, but it's also everyone's responsibility to educate themselves. And I think that's what sort of Black Lives Matter and those really important movements have been doing recently, is really highlighting that point that people need to educate themselves about marginalized groups and people that they don't, you know, groups of people they don't understand, things that are alien to them. And so, you know, in the general sense, in terms of disabled people in the industry, we are still thought of very much as other, and we are still on the back foot. We don't have the opportunities that non-disabled people have in the industry, although more opportunities are coming up now and progression is happening slowly. So that's all great. Visually, in terms of the visually impaired community, I would say from my own experience, what's really interesting is that, so speaking very personally, in theatre, I find that I am cast much more incidentally. So I will be cast in a role that isn't a visually impaired character. You know, I happen to have a visual impairment and I will play any role. Whereas in TV, the only roles, or film, the only roles I'll be put up for by my agent are visually impaired roles. And this is where it's interesting, because if you're very visibly disabled, you meet lots of barriers for being very visibly disabled. But if you have a relatively invisible impairment, the interesting thing is that on the flip side of the coin, you meet sort of almost equal barriers, because I'll be put up for blind roles and I won't get them because I don't look blind enough. So it's really interesting that there's a slight disparity in that sense in TV and film and in theatre. I would say there's still a long way to go in both industries in terms of visually impaired people, and our representation is really still off the mark, because people think of blind as meaning you can't see anything at all, and actually that's not the case. Blind is a spectrum just like anything else. So
Absolutely. Yeah, even myself, I've been learning more about the subject matter. Uh, hey guys, so joining us now is Andrew Roach, agent. Thanks for joining us, Andrew.
Yeah, sorry for being late. I was having laptop issues, so technology is always wonderful.
No worries. Yeah, technical difficulties. No worries. Since you just joined us, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, I'm Andrew Roach. I run a talent agency in the UK called Andrew Roach Talent. The majority of our clients are actors, comedians, writers, um, presenters, and most identify as having a disability.
Wow. Yeah, thank you, Andrew. Appreciate it, my good friend. All right. Addison, sir, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Addison, you've been in the industry for a good while now, and I'm pretty sure you've seen the trends, the highs and the lows, the learning process and the curves that it's taken. Um, do you want to speak on uh, mm, how did you overcome some of the challenges that Black actors and creatives faced when you first started in the industry?
Well, thank you for having me here, and hopefully my connection will remain intact so that I can be a part of the conversation. You know, I think for me, given the time frame when we look back at that time, life was different. There were challenges started out. It was really about doing the work. I was a theater major. I was doing the work, but I was also really adroit at understanding how to manage people and move things along. And so I found often interested in telling stories, helping other people achieve successes. And what I figured out early on in the industry is that your greatest weakness is your greatest strength. And so for me and my team of people that I represented, that was our belief system, that what we offered and the things that the industry thought were challenging or didn't work, we turned into our superpower. And so I started doing panels on understanding. There's my internet. Doing panels on understanding what diversity meant and how we could become a part of the conversation, an active part of the conversation. And we just believed that we were going to work, and we set intentions for that work. And I didn't really look at other groups and people in pertaining to what that said about me.
Yeah.
I just did the work, and that's the kind of company I built for the clients I represented. So
Oh, his internet technical difficulties. It is bound to happen with these kinds of things. All right, we're just going to move on a little bit, let his internet catch up to us because we are moving and grooving. All right, David, sir, hey, what's going
Hi.
on? So, David, you're quite active as well. So you started out in the acting world a little bit later. Do you want to speak about what inspired you to finally just push on with your dream and what you really wanted to do?
Yeah, I always wanted to be an actor. I just didn't see anybody, particularly with a disability, on screen. So I didn't think it was a viable career. And then I was offered a chance to for an open audition, and kind of went along, and it kept getting a smaller group, and then ended up getting the lead part in a BBC drama. And then since then, I was asked about disability representation, and I felt a little bit fraudulent talking about other people's representation of disability, having not put my own stuff out there. And then since then, kind of got more into the writing, and now kind of juggle kind of all the writing, the acting, and the directing. But I think I just think it's 2020. We need to start calling some stuff out.
Yes.
You know, diversity is not a buffet where you can, you know, pick the bits that you want. It's either quality for all or it's not. And you know, we disabled people can make short films because, you know, giving a disabled person 10 grand to make a short is fine. But we live in a culture where disability is seen as a weakness. And if you've grown up thinking disability is a weakness or something that's, you know, that person's lesser, that's not who you hand $1 million to go and make a movie.
Yeah.
So we need to really smash that glass ceiling. And I think that the actual problem is quite diluted down to a very small amount of commissioners and financiers at the top level of our industry that still have not cottoned on to the fact that disabled people can more than capable of telling our own stories and bringing that fresh voice. You've just got to get past yourself and your own unconscious bias to allow us to do it. So I think with all the strands that I do, it's just trying to smash that ceiling so that, you know, the 14-year-old me that's out there can go, do you know what? I'm going to go to film school and I'm going to do that because, you know, these people are doing it. So, and I think we're kind of almost there, but I think that we need a little bit of a coming together of everyone to go, no, it's 2020. We're going to call this out. You know, if you're behaving badly as a network executive, you're going to hear about it. So, and I think in the UK, we're becoming a little bit more vocal. And I know I do a lot with Andrew, and we're starting to kind of find our voice within the industry to actually say, no, these are tough questions about like cripping up and things like that. But we need to have those conversations. Otherwise, we're never going to get any further.
Yeah. Do you want to explain for everyone that what cripping up
Yeah, it's
because I know you and me talked about that earlier, and that's the first time I had heard that term.
so it's a term for when a non-disabled actor plays a disabled part, and it's used quite a lot in the UK to kind of as a term. And non-disabled actors playing disabled parts is a workaround that was used at a time when there weren't disabled actors. There's now an abundance of disabled actors. It's time we put that to bed. And actually now the practice of doing that is harming the lives of disabled artists out there. So it's part of the history of film, you know, and I think it's time that we kind of collectively work as an industry to move to a point where we go, that's really culturally insensitive to do that. And we've seen it with other underrepresented groups where it's completely culturally insensitive to do that. So we kind of need to be using that same thing and going, we shouldn't really be doing that.
Absolutely, yes. And they do it with people of color, having artists that are not of that culture play those characters. It's
But
like,
it's okay for disabled characters at the
yeah, I
moment,
know.
and you go, why? It's the same. It's that same mechanics, but
Absolutely.
it's not seen in the same light. And I think that if we can kind of click that switch and go, no, we're going to move to something different. You know, wasn't it Mickey Rooney playing a Chinese character in Breakfast at Tiffany's? You know, everything has its day, and I think for Cripping Up, it's had its day.
Yes, absolutely. And Chloe touched on this, Addison touched on this, like lead by example, right?
Yeah.
It's like we can't expect someone to jump in and do these things for us. You know, people of
No.
color, people from the disability community, we have to stand up, lead by example, and start the conversation.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, we've got the experience to actually be able to move the industry to a more inclusive place, and it's, you know, it's not something that's going to happen overnight, but we have to start that journey and we have to go on it, and we have to go, there's an abundance of talent out there, come to us, we can support you, we can help you, we can ensure that your project's amazing, commercially viable, but done authentically.
Yes.
But the vital thing is that we need to be listened to, because we've been saying that for decades and nobody actually listens to us. So what we really need is to be heard and to have allies in the industry and people
Yeah.
who are willing to relinquish their platform to, well, and what people need to realize is they're not giving up their platform, they're just making space. It's not taking, it's not taking yourself off that platform, it's just making space for other people and signposting the people who know what they're talking about. And that's what we're meeting. We're meeting all that resistance at the moment to doing that.
Exactly, and some of the best projects I've known are completely inclusive of non-disabled and disabled talent working together, whether that be on screen, behind screen. It's not we just want to do disabled stuff and have only disabled team doing it. It's we just want to have an inclusive project where it's disabled led, and that authenticity and that voice is coming from a place of lived experience rather than somebody extracting that lived experience out and then putting it on screen. I think working side by side, you can create projects that everyone's proud of them.
Absolutely well said.
Yeah.
Andrew.
And no, you're absolutely right. I mean, in terms of commercial viability, sorry to jump in. My Feral Heart, classic example, 5-star film on Sky. We won something 14 international awards, smashed independent screening records in the UK. Can you get a commercial deal in the States? No. Why not? No one wants to take the risk on a film. There's a lead character with a learning disability. And it's mind-blowing. We've got the weight of the BFI behind it, promoting the film in every territory in the world. So you've got about the oldest film organisation saying this has got to be seen, and it's all there. It's there. It's a perfect finished example, and it's just so frustrating that it doesn't matter how good it is. There are so many people that says, well, who's in it? Who are they? How much money did they make in their last film? Will we use it? Won't we use it? And and going back to your point, David, on Cripping Up, having an able-bodied actor doing some pastiche of a disabled person, is frankly, it's revolting. You shouldn't see it at all.
Isn't that model dead of who's in it? How much do they make? Because even the biggest name can flop.
I know.
And now we're living in a world where cinema and streaming and it's all getting a little bit more complicated. I'm not sure these arguments hold the weight that they did even 2 years ago.
I'm not sure what the number is now, but it used to be 6% of films actually made a profit. So what I say to all my film producer friends is, forget that yours is going to be the next Blair Witch on a low budget and you're going to make millions. Just assume you want to make a great film. And if you're lucky, you might make a chunk of money as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Something that's going to hold up and stand the test of time.
Yeah. Definitely.
Because you will be judged on it later on, as well as in real time.
That's it. Who wants to be Transformers 6? Sorry if anyone's watching.
Sorry, Michael Bay. Oh, my goodness. Hey, so for everyone just joining us, we're streaming live right now. For the Portland Film Festival via NBC, I am your host, James Ken Blackman, with Voices of Ability, Stuck Stereotypes. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And for everyone watching later on, we appreciate you. Thank you for joining the conversation and discussion, and hopefully we can smash some stereotypes. So, Andrew, I want to talk to Andrew. You have an agency, and it's a really it's a niche agency, which we don't really see too much still right now. Do you want to speak on what led you to start your agency in this niche realm?
Well, I'd love to say it was strategic. It wasn't. When I decided to set up my agency on my own, the first person I went to see perform at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival was a comedian who, this was 6 years ago at the time, was doing a comedy show about her mental health conditions and eating disorders. Now, at the time, that was quite a far out thing to be doing, whereas now everyone in comedy particularly seems to touch on mental health in some way in their shows. Now, in that show, which was about body confidence, she had interviewed a lot of different people. One of the people she interviewed was Adam Pearson. I then met Adam. Adam had just filmed Under the Skin with Scarlett Johansson, and the agency just grew from there. And you know, like any relationship in agency, you just meet. It's all about relationships, isn't it? You just meet people, and I just kept meeting brilliantly funny, talented people, and I suddenly realised that you know the clients and progressing that the agency, the number of clients I was looking after, were just not being afforded the same opportunities as others. And I like a bit of a challenge. I don't like to let go of things, and I just started this journey of also campaigning at the same time. And actually, what the thing that led me to do it more was when you look at the statistics of disability representation versus the population percentage in the UK, for example. So we're sitting around 20% of the UK population identifying as having disability, and on-screen representation is estimated to be around 8%. And to me, in 2020, that is just totally unacceptable. So the more that I work with people, the more people I meet, and the thing that drives me to distraction more than anything is the decision makers we're talking about, the commissioners, producers sometimes. You know, the question I get asked more often than not is, well, who are these people? Who are these talented people you're talking? Where are they? And my first response would be, well, it's your job, go and find them. But my job as an agent is obviously to tell you about my clients. And actually, if you just gave me a minute, I could string off a whole load of amazing people who, frankly, you're just not giving opportunities to. And it just seems, and you know, my experience is mainly in TV, but also in comedy, and now there's a crossover in film as well. There seems to be this totally acceptable way of just not affording disabled people the same opportunities, and we just go round in this circle of saying, oh, we're going to do a season, oh, we're going to do a one-off, or we're going to, you know, literally we're going to pick people out, put them on, and then put them back in. There's no strategy. There's no development within talent particularly. But yet, when you see people doing well, and I look after Lee Ridley, who's Lost Voice guy, who became the first comedian to win Britain's Got Talent. That is a publicly voted competition. He won that competition because the public liked him. They liked him because they thought he was funny. Okay, he talks about his disability, but that's just part of who he is. And I think that's the other problem. We don't afford the audience enough. We just don't give people. Basically, I think if people like people, they don't care. And I think we do the audience a great disservice by assuming that they don't want to see disabled people on screen, or they don't want to hear what disabled people have to say. And you know, Adam Pearson says, and has said to me on more than one occasion, the thing about disability is it's the one protected characteristic that any of us could experience at any time in our life. And in that sense, disability is universal. And why there is this barrier to affording people the same opportunity in this day and age is beyond me, because we absolutely would not do it for any other diverse group. Yet it seems completely acceptable to continue to do it. And as I say, the thing that I find crazy is, and of course, you know, I'm always talking about my clients, but you know, I've met David, I've met many other people. The talent who are disabled are out there, they're ready, willing, and able to work. So this excuse of not knowing or not giving opportunities, you know, and I think David's right, we have to just come out and say what it is. And if it was any other group of diversity, we would call it discrimination.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. You know, just, you know.
completely right, Andrew. I don't know whether Lawrence Clark is one of your clients, but Lawrence said to me he's had 15 years of training schemes. He could be a lawyer and a doctor by now, but yet he still is not afforded the opportunity to make shows. And yeah, it's Andrew's completely right. It's just baffling, and Andrew won't say it himself, but he does so much work behind the scenes to call it out, and he's one of our warriors. So thank you so much, Andrew.
Well, it's, it's a pleasure. And the thing is that I get encouraged now by the BBC, by Channel 4, by ATV. They'll say to me, Andrew, we need you to call out. We need you to tell us. Now, that's fine. And, I'm happy to do that. But my point would be we shouldn't be at a point where I'm sending an email saying, hi, you've just commissioned another series and there's no disabled person in it, because that shouldn't be acceptable, particularly when there are reams of people, both on and off screen, who can work, who can do the job. And I think there's a lot of subconscious bias. I think there's a lot of misappropriation of risk. I think people see disabled talent and immediately, well, two things actually. They go, risk, oh God, what do we do? What do we do? And rather than just, speak to someone and say, what do you need? And 9 times out of 10, it'll be completely achievable and then we'll move on. They have it in their mind that there's a negativity, there's a problem. There's a very negative association where actually, the same challenges that a lot of my clients face are exactly the same as anyone else. One of my clients who's a mother. Oh, I need to get childcare. Well, yeah, that's just part of everyday life. It's absolutely nothing to do with their disability. And that's where we need people to make a shift in their minds and not associate it in a negative way, because it's my life has been enriched by representing disabled people.
Yeah. Yeah, there's not too many agents doing what you're doing. Keely Cat Wells is another one. You guys are really helping lead the charge on this thing, which is really commendable because it's a lot of work, like helping to catch up everybody else that is just joining the conversation, with showing that our projects need to be all of us and not just one demographic, right?
Yeah.
And joining us on that note is Jessica Clark. Hi, Jessica. Thank you so much.
Hello.
Yes. Do you want to do a quick introduction for everyone?
Hi, I'm Jessica Clark. I am an actor. I'm originally from the UK, from London. I live in LA, it's in New York, and I've been in LA now for about 7 years. A combination of television and independent film, have co-written on some projects, and I am such a fervent advocate for correct inclusion, and I the word diversity and things like that I think is problematic in its own way. I welcome panels like this, and I wish the conversation was greater and wider. And I do see it starting to happen, but it's a real trickle effect, and the I'm an out LGBTQ performer, and I have a long history of mental health issues and things like that. And so just seeing how they're portrayed in the industry, they're very much present in the industry with those of us that work, in front of or behind the camera. But it's one of my passions, seeking for it to be a more nuanced portrayal than I currently see. So thank you so much for having me, and I'm super excited to hear everybody. I'm honestly here to listen.
Right? Yeah, because we need to speak, but we need to listen as well, right? We can always learn something new, right? Like me, I'm still learning so many things that I never knew about the disabled communities. So many things. So I'm glad to be here and listen as well. Ken, I wanted to show a clip from your project Innocence. Do you want to lead us in with a little introduction, and then Michael will show the clip for us?
Excellent. So, Innocence, cracking film with actor Tommy Jessup. In fact, I think the last time I saw James was when Tommy Jessup was just being inducted into the BAFTA Elevate program. Tommy is the first professional in the acting industry to be inducted onto the Elevate program. This is a really, really grippy film. I hope you guys like it.
Thank you.
You need to come with me. Why? What's happened?
Someone died yesterday when your brother was on duty. It could mean he's in a lot of trouble.
I don't know what happened.
Can you identify this man?
But that's my little brother, Dylan.
He probably sees you as a burden.
He's got a record, GBH and drink driving. He's my brother.
Come on, drink up, Sarah. What have you got against Mike?
Nothing.
How are you, Dylan? You seem a bit tense.
Don't you fucking touch it.
Take your medication. Come on.
I can't keep making excuses for you.
You should stop doing what Mike tells you.
Come on, Dylan. Have a think.
Wow. There it is. Oh man, Ken, that looks like a really, really good project, and yeah, I'm so glad that I have been introduced to it. What are your hopes for the film?
So Innocence was a short. It's the first short I've made. I've only ever been involved with feature lengths before. There is a feature length version of Innocence. For anyone who wanted to see a longer version of that film, they'll be disappointed because it's actually a different Innocence, but it's the same story where there's complex characters, moral ambiguity, people with Down syndrome getting to do what they haven't been able to do in film before, people being decisive, taking control of their own destiny. So it's really, really exciting, and it's going to be shot in the UK and in Ecuador. So it'll be good fun.
Yeah, that's amazing. Oh man.
Yeah, no, I can't wait.
Thank you so much, Ken. Yeah, we need more films like this, just pushing the boundaries and breaking all stereotypes and showing something that has never been shown before, right?
Yeah, and it is frustrating waiting for the controllers to decide what they want to commission. I mean, I'm lucky; I've got some guys around me that we make the films we want to make, and if someone wants to buy them afterwards, that's what we hope is going to happen. And if we can improve on distribution and maybe make the path a bit easier for some other people as well, that'd be great.
Yeah, great. Jessica.
Yes, I'm still emotional from the preview, so.
Yeah,
thank you.
It was an intense one. Yeah, when I first watched it, I wasn't ready. I was, it got intense really quickly.
Yeah.
Jessica, so this is some subject matter that is near and dear to my heart. Being a person of color and an actor myself, I've encountered a lot of stuck stereotypes and had to push through a lot of things that a lot of other actors may not normally deal with. So, being a person of color, as well as part of the LGBT community, do you feel that it's twice as hard for you in the industry?
I think that's such a sort of difficult question to answer. Not purely but the industry, it's a subjective industry, isn't it? And particularly with the craft of acting, One person's gold is another person's, less precious metal. And so there's no real way to say categorically, like, my career has been negatively impacted by being a person of color. Well, that's not necessarily true. I think I've noticed there has been a difference, and I'm really interested to hear what people based in the UK have to say. But based in Los Angeles, over the past few years, there has been a push to get a lot more people of color on camera, so in the scripted shows, which is wonderful, because a working actor, you need there to be multiple roles. Like, if there's always only one person of color in every project and they're supposed to encompass every culture, which that makes no sense at all. Like, and I'm noticing here in the US, there's a real they really love to cast Black actors from the UK. And part of that is obviously the classic training and things like that, that they feel that it doesn't necessarily exist in the same way here, or to the same, not the same percentage of actors here necessarily have that classical training as they do in the UK. But I do also think that there's a subtext there where, Black actors in the UK are perceived to be, better than African-American actors, and I think that is an inherent racism that's present in this country. I really do. And I see that time and time again. And there's also a conversation happening. Once again, I don't have the answer, but an African-American's experience, yes, you have the experience of being Black and being in a country where you are, Caucasian is the assumption, right? So everyone else sees the descriptor. But the experience of an African American is not necessarily the experience of somebody that's from Africa that has come to work here, or has come to work in the UK, or that a UK actor of Black descent is having. And so there's that conversation of, like, there are similarities, but also there are distinct differences. And the Afro-Latinas, for example, they're basically invisible over here. So there's the perception that if you're Hispanic, then you speak Spanish, and you have dark hair and a fiery temperament, but like there's an entire giant segment of the population that are completely invisible. And so I don't know if I answered that question. I don't think I did. I think that it has limited it purely by numbers. I think that if they're just looking to fill a role of, when you're first getting into the industry, of the waitress or the this or the that, like all of those sort of like stepping stones in, I think that they weren't necessarily written as people of color ever. And sort of like, oh, the nurse or the lawyer, like, oh, wait, could they be a person of color? Oh, wow, they could be, versus it being someone's ethnicity, the character necessitating the ethnicity, versus just being a person, a character that exists in this world that happens to be non-Caucasian. So I do see those shifts happening. I don't see nearly enough of a shift happening behind the camera, the writers, the producers, people like that. So I know a lot of my friends are on shows, and listen, we're all grateful to work, believe me. But they're on shows where all of the writing teams, the writing staff are Caucasian, and they're writing dialects that aren't theirs, experiences that aren't theirs. And that's not to say that we can't imagine and put ourselves in other circumstances, but you never have a predominantly of color writing staff writing a predominantly Caucasian show. It's never reversed. It's that, like, Caucasian people or heterosexual identifying people can write for the minority experiences, but we can't write for them. Like, straight people can play gay, but gay people can't play straight. Like, there's this like very limiting double standard, I find. I think I've talked enough now. I'm going to stop.
Yeah. No, that was great. And yeah, I have encountered that as well. When I read roles, I can usually tell if it was written by a person of color. It's it's right out there and out front, with right between the lines. Pun intended. I read it and I always think to myself, can I make changes on this thing, because this is not being portrayed accurately. To speak plainly. Chloe, I actually just found out that there are visually impaired cameramen to speak on what Jessica, one of her last points of behind the camera. Uh, can you speak on that a little bit more?
Well, I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? People would just assume that visually impaired people couldn't, of course. And yeah, just to pick up on Jessica's point, that's exactly the same case for disabled people. We need disabled people in, positions of being writers and producers and directors and casting directors, and to infiltrate throughout the industry or every single level of production, doesn't it? It's not just the portrayal on camera, it's behind the camera and everywhere else. And exactly as you're saying, James, you can spot the writing of an inauthentic, character a mile off, and so can we. It's exactly the same. And you think, oh God, please give me the license to be able to say, actually,
Yeah.
can we do it like this, please?
No, yeah. David, I actually had a question for you. Have you ever had to make changes to your characters?
Yeah, I had a really interesting conversation with Ruth Madeley actually about having to almost educate people as well as do the job, on certain things, and how that can just take its toll a little bit. And when we work together, with me having spina bifida and Ruth having the same condition, she didn't have to educate me as a director on the job. She could just turn up and be the actress, um, and it is that added level of having to point out, yeah, you wouldn't do that. And I think that's only comes around when the part's been written by by somebody who doesn't have the lived experience. And I loved what Jessica was saying, everything she was saying. I just think people just still don't get equality, really. So when you talk about intersectionality, that's just like that's that extra level of like,
Yeah.
if they don't get equality, then then if they can't get one demographic, they're not going to get all of them. And I think it's disheartening that we're still kind of at this level. And I think there was a line that came out of the disability rights movement in the UK, and the line is "Nothing about us without us." And it was such a beautiful statement of engagement to go, if you're writing about a group of people, like, they should be writing that themselves, and yes, you can work in partnership, but you shouldn't be doing that in isolation, and but I think it's up to individual artists and individual filmmakers and people to actually go, do you know what, I'm not comfortable doing this. Um I don't feel like I particularly have a good enough understanding to do justice to that. So, but I could work with somebody as equals, not not consultants, equals, and we could try and make something that will actually improve me as a filmmaker and improve them. And and I just think we if we collectively kind of go, we're going to clean up our act and we're going to work in a way that's morally right, the industry just gets better, the stories get better, the everybody's talent gets better, and we all rise together instead of this kind of you know thing where we're trying to play catch up at the moment. And I just think, and especially with coronavirus, we're at such a moment where the industry, for the first time this year, I actually commented that disabled artists were equal because no one was working. So it's the first year that we've ever been equal because no one was working. It took everyone else to stop for us to achieve equality. So now when we start to work again, like, everyone needs to be at that table, and everyone needs to be on that set, and everyone needs to be on those credits. And if it doesn't, then we've missed this beautiful opportunity to kind of to reset how we work.
Yeah, it's been somewhat of a reset button for all of
Mm,
us, right?
yeah.
I think this year has been a very learning year for everybody. Everyone being stuck at home, being able to research and look at these things that are coming through our screens. I think that's why the Black Lives Matter movement caught so much traction, because we had no choice but to watch what was happening in front of us, right? these videos, like they were being passed from person to person, and there was no escaping it. I think the same thing is happening, is starting to trickle down to all the other marginalized communities that we have. There's a trend happening, and I think we should ride this wave to inclusion for all. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So before we end our conversation, I just want Ken to show us his last clip because it's another cool project that he's involved in. You want to introduce this one, Ken?
Yeah, so this really got me back into wanting to make films again. This story, so I'd done my bit with some big names, big producers, big actors. Didn't have the best experience with the last big film, so dropped out of it for nearly 10 years. Then I happened to be at a protest in Parliament, and it really captured my mind that these guys were trying to get their voice out there. They're trying to say that our lives are really important, because there's a law in the UK which says you're only equal once you're born. If you have a disability, you're not equal until you're born. So I was at a protest saying that this was absolutely disgraceful. And I happened to meet a filmmaker there, and he was telling me about his film, My Feral Heart. Now, you might not realize as well, if something goes wrong in your life and you have a learning disability, if your parent or guardian, whoever disappears, your voice still doesn't matter. Someone else will tell you what to do. And this film was trying to show, here's a man who's grown up, he's his own man, he knows his own path, things happen, and well, hopefully this will start to get people talking about what we should be doing. We should be talking to people, we should be asking them, we shouldn't just be assuming what's best for them.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Ken. All right, let's watch it, guys.
Just wash it, don't tear it out of my head. Look at the place, she's married again. Right, Mum.
I need you to come with me.
I want to stay here. This is my home. Is it my fault?
Luke, it wasn't your fault. You did the best you could to look after her.
I miss her. What happens when you die?
I don't know. Depends on what you believe. My nan used to say we come back as animals.
I like animals.
Me too.
You're kidding me, you're joking. Come here, come here.
Don't touch him, all right? He's what?
We're not so different, you and me. You know, that was me that saw you yesterday in the field. Don't worry, I won't say anything.
Oh, that was great. That was great. And I hope there's going to be many more projects like this one, not just for the disabled community, but all the marginalized voices out there. I just want to say thank you for everyone for joining us. Every one of these panelists are available to talk to and follow out there on their social media. So please, let's keep these conversations going and open, and hopefully one day we'll all be included in the story that already involves all of us. All right, guys, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much. I really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, bye, guys. My name is James Ken Blackman. Thank you for joining us for the Portland Film Festival via NBC, and hopefully we will continue this conversation. Thank you, guys.